Just want to say hello. I'm Josh Douglas. It's my buddy, Seth Feider.
What's up? What's happening?
We are back at it. We are definitely back at it again. Seasonal patterns for largemouth and smallmouth bass. We're going to talk about spring to summer transition. I think mostly past the spawn, post spawn, getting into summer stuff and summer type of stuff that's going to be coming up right about now up here up north. Guys, we got some giveaways for this one. We got a Shields gift card for 50 bucks. We got an Omnia fishing gift card for 50 bucks. That's online. And then Rip-A-Lip. Rip-A-Lip has stepped up big time. They're the one sponsoring this site. Both Seth and I will jump into a bunch of that, what we got going on with Rip-A-Lip. They got a nice prize pack, some electronics covers and stuff like that, and the app, which we'll get into, and then Woo Tungsten, since we're talking largies and smallies. Yeah. They got a large and smallie tungsten pack for everybody. We're gonna be sending out. So we're gonna pick, what would that be? 4 people for maybe 5 with the Woo thing. 5 people at random, and we'll get to know. We'll whatever email you used to register for this webinar is the one we will be notifying you on if and when you win. Jump right in there, guys. We're going to start out with a little something from Rip-A-Lip. Rip-A-Lip is something both Seth and I both got involved with this year. Yeah. Awesome app. Basically, you customize all your settings. All Seth and I settings, we're privy to some pretty good information over the course of the year on different stuff, different settings we want to play with for different factories, and we give all that right back into the app. Seth, Humminbird. Yeah, get good stuff. I know I actually use that thing to pick some of my settings this year. Look through there at some. Yeah. We got a lot of different experts and stuff that are involved in it. But the app as a whole is an awesome thing. A lot of electronics. I used to do a whole bunch of electronics training, and now with just a busy tournament schedule and stuff like that, we can't do it. But what's awesome is just how everything's evolved now. And in a $10 app, you have access to all the same stuff that we're looking at and all the different tricks that we're using for our app. So. Yeah. I'll just jump through some of this stuff. We'll keep it kind of quick. This is some of the stuff you can do by customizing. I know Seth and I both have our rigs customized for us. I'm rocking the Ultrex, the HDS Live, the 0.1. Here's just some of the stuff that you can expect to see from the app. There's different videos, installations, but this stuff's some of my favorite. My default settings. I can put all that in there. If anything happens, I get a new graph. I know all the different type of settings that we want to use. And again, we're tied in, Seth and I on the fishing side, but then there's some serious Humminbird and Lowrance experts involved. The same people that we're talking to get our stuff.
Yeah, it's awesome if you get a new boat or new graphs, and just for getting everything set up, you can run through there and it'll give you really good starting places. And also like this slide here, some places you go to, you want stuff set up different, if you're going to a grass lake or Deepwater smallmouth lake, or even like rivers, just because with all the current you get a lot of interference and stuff. So we got different setups for all the types of body of waters you're fishing.
Yeah, you go like Lake Erie, Buffalo, you might want totally different settings because you're looking at the fish and stuff like that. So a lot of awesome information on this stuff. Again, we're going to encourage everybody to sign up. It's a $10 app. I don't think you can go wrong with this app at all for $10, and get right into it and get all the good stuff from us. Let's get into this deal, huh? We're going to talk about smallmouth fishing. And since we're talking spring, post-spawn, fish are coming off the beds. They've all been up shallow. Some of those fish are going to stay shallow, and some of those fish are going to get deep. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to start where they were spawning. I'm going to start pulling out and going backwards. So if you look at a big reef like this, big, large, shallow flats, bigger the better, all the food's there. And remember, things are smaller this time of year. Your crawdads are a little smaller, your perch are a little smaller, but there's an abundance of small bait running around because everything in the factory, everything out in the lake has just spawned. So large, shallow flats. I love to fish them. They can have cabbage on them. Definitely want to have some rock there.
Oh, yeah. It's a place that they spawn on the high spots on there, and they're going to spend a good amount of time in that pre-spawn, spawn, post-spawn on that same area.
Yep, figured they were going to spawn up here on these little high spots on a reef like this. Well, they're going to use these guts right here to come in. They're going to use this vertical stuff where they can get to that deep water quick, and eventually they're going to slide up here. Well, they're going to hang out there, and at the same time, other fish are going to start showing up. Perch is going to be in abundance. So some of those fish will actually stay up on the flat. The other ones will start using these same ways, and the same ways they came in, that they'll use those to come back out. And for one, I like to chase them out as soon as I can. But when you're sitting up on these shallow flats, you got to think of the bait that's going to be up there. we're talking after the post spawn with smallies, we got mayflies. Fly hatches are a big deal.
Yeah.
My man's Feider fly. I don't think there's anything that I like to throw better than a hair jig. If you're going around a mayfly hatch, those big fish, they know they can look up.
Mm-hmm.
Other things, a tube, 365 days a year, you can throw a tube at a smallmouth. Spinner baits, again, the perch stuff, the SB from Evergreen, awesome topwater bait. The Arashi popper, 1/2 ounce bait, real awesome. A spy bait, something I've been getting into that time of year. Again, a lot of perchy type stuff. There's that cabbage up there, a lot of bluegills and stuff like that. Your green pumpkin stuff, big spinner bait. Definitely. Scanning the flats is a big deal to me. You start getting out on these big rock reefs, and I see so many times people find rock and they just stop and they start fishing it. That's a needle in a haystack type of fishing. Look to know what's out there. Not all rocks created equal. You can see on this flat right here in this image, you can come off a high spot. This is probably where they're up spawning along these edges, and then they pull out and they get some of this bigger, better rock, and that's where they're going to want to be. That's where their crawdads are. That's where they'll be there for a good while.
Yeah, that's a similar place you'd catch them in the pre-spawn. But anytime you get on them flats, those rock flats, and you can see they're on the side scan, you get that real hard, 2, 3 drop. An area that's relatively flat, those can be really, really good spots.
Definitely. Lights out spots. It's good. They use those coming in, use those going out, and heck, they'll spawn right along those edges too, depending on the depth that you're looking at. Again, locating the school, idle around, they can't hide from you that well. So if you start seeing some marks, you got to assume that you're looking at smallmouth right there. And this one, I can see at least 4, maybe 5 of them on the sonar just idling through. You want to turn around and start fishing. My rule of thumb is always, if you see a bunch, there's a lot more of them around.
Especially when they're at that depth. If you only see a couple fish, there's probably quite a few in the area.
No doubt. Again, we talked about those transitions, the rock and sand. Transitions are just always so important. We see it in deer hunting, we see it in fishing. Transitions are just uber important, whether it's rock, sand transitions like this, you're coming in sand up onto the reef and rock, they're going to use that to move. Or whether you're talking rock and grass transitions. And again, these are where you're throwing that evergreen shower blow up on top of the water, or throwing that jerk bait around the edge. Maybe a tube or an outcast
spinner bait works real good when you get around grass or
you got all the bait, you got all that bait fish around here, you got some rock out here, some cabbage. Those smallies like to use those edges and use their eyes. They're definitely going to get on that bait fish big time. Let's talk about the deep water stuff. This is when I really get excited. That's my favorite time of year. I love right now when they're all up shallow and all that kind of good stuff, but it is definitely deep water fishing. You turn the electronics on, you go around, you actually look for them. These are some of your more common deep water smallie baits. A lot of times I'm working with a drop shot in my hand. I don't know if under here I got the Ned rig up top. Ned rig's gonna be a good one. Tube. You much of a cranker on those smallies out deep?
No, but it can work.
Plays.
But you could take a drop shot in a Ned rig and do everything you need to do out deep.
Go to town. Again, throw that tube in there. Maybe a jig. You could have thrown in a jig, a football jig. I guess we didn't think about that one. That'll play some too. But again, you're just getting out there. And here's this is a good one. This is just Lake Champlain, and you got a big spawning flat up here. So you assume that's where the fish come from. That's where they're spawning, and they're going to move out. And smallies are a little different, right? Because they can spawn here and here and here. But you assume this is a big flat and they can come off. And this is going to be some of their first stops. Those intermediate rock piles, stuff like that. They seem to never want to keep a crawdad too far away from them.
Yeah, shoreline based too.
Yeah, moving out. They're going to kind of move down this ledge until they get out here on this point, right? And that's kind of going to be right after the spawn. Some fish, if there's grass, will hold there and stay there for the summer.
Yeah.
Other ones will start venturing out here onto these big main lake points, out there in some of that deeper water. And those are the ones we're kind of looking for. And I can't express enough. Turn your graph on.
Oh, yeah.
Look for them. They can't hide from you that well when they're out there that deep. So my side scan's on. I'm looking for the same stuff I look for up shallow. I'm looking for out deep, but I'm also looking for the fish. And you can see here, one of these I'm probably, looks like 3.4. I'm probably idling on these ones right here. And these I'm over the top of them with my graph, and you can see them spaghettiing all over the bottom. But those are classic drop shot fish, 23 feet, drop a drop shot, a Ned rig, something down on those bass. And smallies are generally gamers. They'll be really to play if you can find them like that, for sure. Let's get into largies.
Yeah.
We'll definitely cover a bunch of questions. Please, again, everyone, use the questions factor in this deal. We'll answer as many of them as we can towards the end. But let's dive right into largies.
Yeah, and if you notice in this picture, this is pretty much all bluegill based. That's a real big forage for them post spawn. You know, in the spring it's a lot of crawfish, and then if you're down south, obviously later in the spawn you start getting shad spawn and stuff like that. But as far as the North Country goes, they're bluegill eaters all summer long. So everything I'm throwing is going to be, you know, fairly bluegill related. A lot of green pumpkins, a lot of little chartreuse accents, stuff like that. But run through these. A stickworm's a really, really good bait all the time, and we're going to rig that a bunch of different ways. Nico rigging, wacky rigging, throw it on a drop shot.
Texas
that little jig worm in the middle with the chartreuse jig head's super, super killer.
How much money you want on that bait in your life?
A lot on Tonka, a lot on the lakes around there, and then that's kind of more your outside edge stuff. We'll get into that, and then the heavy grass stuff, depending on the depth, you're either going to be flipping it or frogging it. That's where that Tokyo rig and the jig come into play. Frog if it's shallow, and then a crankbait works really, really good when they get out on those deeper, clean rocks and stuff. Really, really good time of year to start crankbait fishing.
Talk to me real quick about the Tokyo rig. I get a lot of emails, texts from people wanting to know more information, when, where, what they're fishing. I know that's a staple for you, the BMC Tokyo.
Yeah, it's a super versatile rig. A lot of things you can do with it, but I love flipping it in grass. You know, last year we did a lot of damage on that up around the house, and it's just a little different look. It's kind of a compact, flippable drop shot, but you know, keeps the bait up off the bottom in those grass. You know, a lot of times you're fishing silty bottom and stuff like that, and you're throwing heavy Texas rigs. I feel like they kind of dig down in the bottom a little bit, and it just gives the fish a different look, and we've been real successful on it. So
definitely. One thing too, and I think you told me the quote years ago, I use it all the time in seminars and stuff. Difference between largemouth smallies, since we're talking about it, smallies use their eyes so dang much. They're a wolf pack. They chase things down and use their eyes. That's why zebra mussels play well for them. Largies can't see that well. They use that lateral line a lot. They're an ambush predator, so they want to hide deeper in the weeds, deeper under docks or in laydowns. Where a largemouth, I think, this is a quote you had told me before, and it was an awesome one, but smallies will eat 100 minnows a day, beat up a bunch of crawdads all day because that's their style. A largemouth's looking for a handful of bluegills.
Yeah,
and that's
big,
what they're
bigger meals, bigger baits for sure. And in the spring, you know, we're going to talk about where they're going, but you know, this is where they've been. You know, inside grass line, spawning bays, stuff like that. This is where the fish were. You know, pretty much everywhere in the country right now, the fish have spawned or are in the process of it. So we're going to talk more about where they're going, but you know, this is where they've been.
And again,
you know,
those largies do stay shallow. Some of them stay shallow and use those same ways out. So some of that works. Just maybe your presentation starts to change a little bit on their way back out.
Yeah, get more vertical stuff and less horizontal stuff. But summer in up north, it's really all about the grass. The rocks are definitely a big factor, but rocks without grass aren't that good. Whereas you can catch them in grass without rocks. So the two places I'm really going to look as far as cover goes the most are going to be deep outside weed lines where the last little bit of grass ends before it gets to the basin. And if you can find somewhere where rocks line up on the edge of that outside edge of grass, that's what you're looking for. That's the sweet spot. And the other option is getting in the thickest grass possible, and that's where the, you know, the flipping the jig and the Tokyo rig really come in. And that's going to be the deepest, tallest grass you can find. That's, you know, a lot of places that's going to be somewhere between 6 and 14 feet, depending on what lake you're on. But if you have milfoil, they love getting right in the middle of that thick stuff. So
deepest, tallest, thickest too, generally. That thicker area that they can get in.
I definitely don't want to be able to see the bottom. You know what I mean? I want it pretty choked out. But you can see here, this is a little section of a lake. You know, you got areas like this little canal up in here, and then you got a big shallow bay up in here. That's where a lot of your largemouths are going to spawn. And then as soon as they're done spawning, obviously some fish are going to stay shallow. Docks are a good option, and you can kind of just run dock rows out as they go. You know, right after they spawn, they're typically going to be on the docks closest to the spawning area and just make their way out towards the main lake. There's a lot of lakes up north where docks are the deal all year, where it'll go from those back bay docks to the main lake docks as the summer progresses. But a lot of our fish, we got so much grass and rock, they're going to slide out here and start getting on these little bumps and stuff like that, and kind of work their way into places they'd go in the summer. Let's say they spawned up in this little deal, they're going to slide out here, maybe be on docks for a few days or a week, then maybe get out in some thicker milfoil and eventually work their way around to, you see something like this, there's going to be some hard bottom on it, a little rock pile or something. Oops, switched it up. But that's eventually where they're going to go, is out to these, main lake points, and anywhere the grass is really, really pretty along the way, they're going to stop. So.
Yeah, and you can always basically rest assured those largemouth, as soon as they come off the spawn, they're going to return the favor on the annoying bluegill, because the bluegill are going to spawn. So some of those fish are going to stay shallow, eat the bluegill, and then as everything starts to move out to deeper water and the summer starts to heat up, the whole food chain is going to actually move out, as a general rule of thumb.
And bare spots are really big. You'll find those in the grass flats. They're kind of hard to find, but they can be really good. Typically, it's a finesse presentation on those, throwing that jig worm or a drop shot in the holes. But like to sit in the grass, and if you can get a little rock spot or a little sand spot in the grass, they'll kind of guard that. They'll kind of guard that and hide in the grass and keep their eyes peeled on those little holes, and you can really do some damage with some finesse stuff in there. But one really good place to look for sure.
Definitely.
And now for your fish, like Josh said before, not all your fish are going deep. I feel like the biggest majority of big fish do go deep, but there's still plenty of big ones shallow, and especially closer right after they spawn. It's kind of the same down south of the shad spawn. The bluegills typically start spawning right after the bass do. So those fish that do stay shallow, those ones that are still up there, just got done garden fry, or they're hanging out on boat docks or something like that, they'll get all over those bluegill beds. And the nice part is most of them are shallow, you can see them, and then a lot of them are out deeper, but they pop really good on a side scan, or this is a 360 image, but something you can see really, really good just sidling around. And
it is incredible. It's one of the first things you really notice when you get out there and look, the honeycombs that you can see on that kind of stuff.
And bluegills will spawn all summer. This isn't a one-time deal. This will play throughout the year. I mean, typically as soon as the water gets around 70, you're gonna have your first bluegill spawn, and then every full moon throughout the summer after that. So you're gonna have one in June, July, August, and maybe even to September, depending on where you're at.
But, and they can be out in 20 feet.
Yeah.
You can see them out on the edge of the weed line, way out there. And I just saw it at Chickamauga. They were just starting to get off the spawn, the bass, and go in the back of a pocket, and you can see all these bluegills sitting up on their bed, the honeycomb. And there's like 1 6-pound bass, and he's just sitting there 5 feet away, and I'm sure he's just waiting for one of them to slip up. He's just literally sitting there watching it. So it's a good way to catch big bass too that time of year that eat big bluegills.
It's not going to be big schools though. It's going to be one or two fish off a bluegill bed, but they can be the right
and
ones.
If they're not right there on the bed, they're going to be somewhere close to it, whether it's a lay down or off in the
usually
shade a little bit. They'll
usually
be right
in
there.
the best cover right on the edge of the bluegill bed, whether it's a dock or a lay down or some thicker grass, whatever it may be. Boat docks, this is
pretty.
A lot of lakes that don't have the really good grass, boat docks are kind of the deal.
For dirty water, which probably doesn't have good grass too.
If it's off color for sure. Then you kind of just follow those out just like you would the grass fish, you know what I mean? Start back in the bays they spawn in, right when they get done spawning, and as the summer progresses, just kind of start fishing more main lake docks. But quick, easy, skip a stealth fighter under there and crack them.
Money.
Yeah.
Money. This is probably
this is the juice. This is what you're looking for, in my opinion, especially as you're getting closer to that summertime. Well, you're a couple weeks after all the fish have spawned, and everything's moving out. So you got a little point of grass here that's got rocks on two sides of it. This is what you're looking for in the summer for largemouths, or anytime they're done spawning. This isn't a flipping deal. This is submerged grass. This is the outside edge, the deepest bit of it. You know, it's going to be a lot of finesse stuff. A football jig plays well here too, but
Carolina rig.
Yeah, that as well. And you can crank some of this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
This is where DT16 comes in, DT10 depending on the depth, and then the finesse stuff that jig worm, drop shot, Nico, all that stuff. This is really, you know, as far as post spawn summertime goes, this is where your majority of your biggest fish in your lake are going if you have stuff like this in here. But,
and this holds up until the fall comes, and it starts to kill the grass off.
Yeah,
and
this will be good all the way into, for sure, all the way through August, if not into September, depending on what the weather's doing before the fish start to head back shallow. But this can be really big schools, and you know, spots like this, you could win a tournament off something like this, just one spot. But it's nice to have quite a few of them. But
and this shot literally has, this screenshot's a great one because it has everything on it. Like, you can just catch them along weed lines this time of year, or on a point, a rock pile, grass, and if I'm not mistaken, these even look like some fish sitting out off the end of that point. And it ain't nothing to idle over those and see a bluegill, hundreds of them sitting off the end. So the food source is there, the crawdads are through there. I mean, everything that they need is right there. Your more dominant fish are going to be right out in that range and down these edges right here, for sure. I mean, it's got everything that they need. They don't have to leave that. And that's it. I think we're ready for questions already. Again, I want to thank you guys all for coming out. You can check out all of our previous webinars at joshdouglasfishing.com. Seth and I do got some big things in the works to keep these webinars coming, and a nice big platform for us to keep them coming on a regular basis. So please tune in. We definitely appreciate it. And we hear you all. We love doing these webinars. As long as you all keep tuning in, we're going to sit here and keep doing them for you. So should we get some questions? Ripple it. Thank you again for coming on. Let's do it. Let's see. I'm trying to not get my questionnaire to come up. Hold on one second. Rework this. Sorry, guys. Okay, I think we got some here. How would you fish a high percentage dock you can skip under because it's too low of water that you can't?
Oh, that's a good question. His question was, how do you fish docks when the water's too high? And this year, I mean, every place is flooded right now. You definitely got to take a different approach. Normally, when it comes to bow docks, I'm kind of a, you know, stick worm, flip a jig under kind of guy. But when you have water that you can't, where you physically can't get under a dock, then I go to horizontal baits. If it's fairly clear, you know, it might be a swim jig. If you got some color, it might be a chatter bait or even a square bill. But you're definitely gonna have to change your approach a little bit if you can't put it right on them.
Definitely. How do you find the bigger smallies during the post-spawn period? That's the toughest time to do it. They're still definitely there because they're hungry. Those females didn't eat a whole heck of a lot. What I've noticed is the females, like, you know, the males are going to take to the reef or the shallow spot first. The females will be close, but they'll be out a little deeper. Then all of a sudden they'll get up there shallow and they're super spooky. They don't commit to a bed. Then they commit to a bed. Then they come out. Now they need to eat. You know, they really haven't eaten much. I'm still trying to figure out if they spawn multiple or lay eggs multiple times on different beds. I don't know. I think that they kind of do a little bit. They tend to hang a little shallow, but then they start to go out. So in my opinion, I like to get out as soon as possible and start looking for them out deep. I think the bigger fish tend to spawn first, and they get right back to that high real estate stuff that they like and they live on. So again, I think it's just more so getting away from the easy numbers that you're going to find up shallow, and instead get yourself back out there and deep. I can tell you, as much as fun as it is to sit out and catch bed and fish and stuff like you can on Mille Lacs and stuff right now, when Seth and I are out there fun fishing this time of year, we're probably not even doing it. We're actually back out already looking for where those ones are coming when they come back out. And I think that's how you go about doing it. You know, just fish for them. But the baits, all that's going to be the same. You just got to get away from the numbers and instead look for the quality. Seth, St. Albans Bay is rocking. Finished third out of 50 boats right now within feet of where you were. Right
That's
on.
good enough.
Rock on.
That spot was terrible last year.
Seth, what does that say?
He's talking about the Denny's.
Fishing Tonka on Sunday. What would you use?
What
are they doing?
Fish
They
kind
post
of
spawning?
I'd start looking for some flipping fish.
Oh, that's what I would do right away.
Yeah, I'd start looking for some flipping fish, and there might be some fish already out on them.
Might be a little
summer spots.
Might be a little early out there, but still, again, getting out there and
Yeah,
getting
the
them
first ones that get out
It's
there.
like ledges down
Yeah.
south. The first ones that get out there are good ones, and they eat.
Yeah, the first one every summer I catch up a rock pile is a 4 or 5 pounder. It's just.
Yeah, no doubt.
That's
The dumb
that's where
one
the
gets
big ones
out
are
there
going, yeah.
because nobody else is doing it.
So I'd start looking deep. That's a good question. Lakes without much depth change or structure. What do you look for in the weeds? That's when it's going to come down to just the actual best quality of grass, regardless of, obviously some lakes don't have rock piles and stuff like that in them. There, I'm just going to look for the thickest, tallest, luscious looking grass you can find. The greenest green, thickest, fluffiest stuff, and
if it ain't there, then it's shallow stuff. Then it'd have to be right. Then you'd have to sort of get docks, wood, stuff like that. Maybe that's the dominant thing that they go to. If the grass and the rocks if it's just all sand and mud, then I'd start looking a little shallower. Keep up the good work. Thanks, man. We appreciate that. What would be the must-have baits for post-spawn largemouth? I'm gonna say a wacky Cinco.
Yeah, I'd just say a big bag of stickworms. You can do so much with them, and like northern strain largemouths just love a stickworm, whether you're Nico, drop shot, wacky, jigworm, Ned rig, whatever you want to call it.
Frog will cough up some big fish that are moving back out. The water temperature starting to warm up a little bit. They're eating some bluegills. The frogs are moving around. Frog would probably be a pretty dang good one too.
Yeah.
Maybe Cast Pro Swim Jig.
Yeah, they start to get on a jig pretty good again after they spawn.
Definitely.
Typically when it's around the spawn, I like to prefer to fish Texas rigs, but they'll start getting on a jig again pretty good.
Is most of this stuff the same when it comes to the rivers?
Not really. I mean, there's definitely like they're definitely gonna move. I would say the biggest difference would be the current. When they're spawning, they want pretty slack water, and then when they're done spawning, they're gonna get in some form of current. It might not be that heavy, but some form of current, and they are gonna back out of where they spawned.
That goes for the largies and the smallies. They're gonna be the same. They're gonna want a little bit of current. Those river fish are used to it, but for the most part, they're gonna get back.
And with the river, I mean, it's all pretty much 5 foot or less, with the exception of late fall. I mean, they just live shallow there.
Yep. Thank you for the webinar, Brent. We appreciate it, man. Any tips for windy days on grass lakes? That's a good question. Actually, that can really screw up a lot of people.
I'd focus more on that outside edge if it's going to be windy, or boat docks. If you're flipping grass, the wind doesn't really bode well for it. No. So
that's when they'll sit up top too. You can catch or you can catch stuff like that. Wiggle wart,
crankbaits, chatterbaits, stuff like that.
So they're sitting up. They're not so thick, but it is tough. It is tough when the wind gets going. But again, the wind gets going. Sometimes I like to get out on those rock piles and stuff like that too. Throw that football jig and stuff like that. And it should be pretty active out there.
Yeah.
If the prominent grass on the lake isn't foiled, do you? Yeah, I'd probably make it better. Honestly.
The question was, if the prominent grass isn't milfoil, would you still target it? Yeah. I mean, largemouths love grass, whether it's eelgrass, pads. There's a lot of curly weed blooming right now. They just like getting in grass. Milfoil is just the best of the best.
Eelgrass, they'll use whatever they can get, whatever they got going. If I mean, grass is grass, and do a largemouth, that's cover. Yeah. So
milfoil is the best if you can find it, but if there's none there, I mean, they're still going to be in some form.
And down south, hydrilla. It's going to be hydrilla. Get up in the hydrilla. How do you see the transitions on tidal waters as compared? That's a tough question.
Asking the wrong guy.
You're asking the wrong two dudes, actually.
I averaged 95th place on tidal rivers. So.
Tidal rivers, whenever I show up, I'm so up and down on those places. Sometimes I'm great, sometimes I'm terrible because I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just fishing where I caught fish and hoping that at some point they're going to bite there. But yeah, tidal river, a whole new thing. I will tell you, my common knowledge on the tidal is if it's high, they pull up shallower. As it drops down, obviously they have to get out of that water and more towards the edge. So, but definitely not the right one to ask. Saw the new Navionics features. How is the new sonar chart shading going to help me catch more fish? I think it's just a thing for the eyes mostly to look at. For me, I like to see the creek channels and stuff. Sometimes it's an easy way to look at a map from a distance and see where the creeks run and how they run. From there, once I'm actually breaking it down, that just gives me starting spots, gives me something where to go. For some reason I can always see the main channel with my mapping, but those second, third channels, stuff like that, seeing where they're coming in and how they're turning is just more easy on the eyes, and definitely helps people get on more fish, helps me get on more fish. But once I'm actually digging in, then I'm zoomed in, I'm using those sonar chart, the 1 foot contours, that's the nuts and bolts. That's definitely what we're using to find the fish. How do you go about fishing a lake in the north that doesn't get any deeper than 10 feet?
I mean, not much different. I mean, if you're in a lake that's only 10 feet, your weed line's probably gonna be pretty shallow. You fish it just like you would a deep lake, or the bank's pretty good. Those you'll catch fish on boat docks year round, and shallow grass. I mean.
And there's just some years, like on boat and shallow water, the grass maybe just doesn't do what it does in years past, and they stay a little bit shallower.
Yeah.
Or
there's always bass shallow, no matter what.
Yep, and plenty of anglers that make a lot of money targeting them shallow. Period. But again, 10 feet to me is damn near shallow. So the grass line, it's the same things. You just get a whole lot of water you don't have to go look at.
Yeah.
What do you guys favor for bait on Carolina rig and weight?
I like stick worm.
Yeah, I like the exo stick a lot. I throw the Biospon exo stick a lot. I work it slower now than like I would a brush hog or something that has more of a appendage, but that I really like it because I don't think a largemouth can stand a weightless piece of plastic that sits there long enough. I think it is what trips their trigger, and the longer I can just sit there and work that bait real slow, it comes through everything.
Oh, yeah.
You can throw it thick grass.
And I usually fish 3/4 most of the time. But
then if you want to cross out like a Vile Craw or something in that brush hog, something in that nature, it'd be some of your more popular baits. But I'm a stick bait guy myself, and it works everywhere. The stick bait will catch them everywhere. Biggest tip for smallmouth in the summer? It's kind of a vague question, man. Find the best, biggest, baddest smallie hole structure. Yeah, that's it. And don't give smallmouth too much credit. If you're not seeing them, if they ain't biting, leave, because they're biters. So you'll get one of them to bite. The more that are in a school, the better opportunities. And that is one thing, I guess for summer that would be my thing. Find the biggest schools. Find, why fish for a few when you can fish for 100 of them? That's how I would do it, because they definitely school up in big numbers. How long does the spawn actually last? Bed made, mate there, female moves up.
I think it's a lot different between largemouths and smallmouths.
I think it's different between each fish. So.
Yeah, I'd say largemouths typically about a week. And then smallmouths, I don't know. I've seen this male smallmouth on a bed for almost a month. So
I think they almost get protective of just that. They're just so protective of that
will definitely be up there a lot longer. But I mean, as fact as the actual spawn and then eggs hatch and all that, I think it's fairly similar. I just think the male smallmouth's on the bed longer before it mates.
You know if the female she spawns multiple times?
I don't think so. I don't know.
I have no idea. What are some tips you would give to fishing Minnetonka when you've never fished it before? This is for 2 high school kids going to their first tourney. Minnetonka is a big body of water. Tourney next weekend. Well, I'll tell you this, I'm sure we got some advice for you, but Seth and I both have put in so many hours on that lake and can understand exactly. I mean, I've got my butt kicked on that lake plenty of times before I ever found success. It's a fun lake. All the lakes fish a little bit differently out there. Like you got different water clarity. Yeah, because you can do it there.
Yeah. If you want to drop shot in 25, you can. If you want to throw a frog in a foot of water all day, you can. Just do whatever you want to do.
Yeah, you can learn structure fishing. You can learn flipping. You can learn shallow. All on that lake. I mean, it's the lake that we cut our teeth on for sure before we ever looked at anything national. So And honestly, I revert back to that lake a lot. So it's the way I look for fish now. What's the best structure to look for big smallmouth in the St. Lawrence? Well, I've never been there.
I think it's more current. It's a river system, so it's more current related. It's gonna be sand and rock, but it's more like current seams and stuff like that.
I hate that I've never been there.
Humps and stuff like that. So it being a river, it's more about current than structure.
I hate that I've never been there. How far away is it from like?
That's all.
What about from when I'm at Champlain?
Oh, not that far.
Not that far. So, on my home lake, the water level changes quite a bit. Now the water is up and there's a lot of tall hay grass that is tough to get baits through. What bait would you recommend what bait would you, oh wait. Well, I think he was asking what bait we would recommend to fish in the tall hay grass. I'd throw a frog.
Like actual hay grass?
Like I think that hay grass that gets up on the banks in Texas and stuff that gets flooded out.
Yeah.
I throw a frog or
punch.
swim jig or something or punch it. Yep. They'll get in it though. I know that.
Yeah.
They'll definitely get there. Some of those lakes, if the water ever gets up into the bushes or up into that stuff, they go. That's where they go.
Fish up there for
sure. How do you guys get the best view on your electronics? I'm using Ripple-It, but still have trouble getting a clear picture using down and side scan. Man, that's such a tough question. It's something we'd have.
Is he?
Yeah, Humminbird, Lowrance. I don't know what model you got. Nothing. I mean, where the transducer is located, there's so much of that type of stuff that without somebody looking at it, if you're not getting a picture, you know, if you looked at all the settings, you're not getting a picture. I literally answer these questions daily because I know how frustrating they can be. But get it into somebody if it could be a bad faulty transducer. Could be something simple as an update and you're back to rolling. You know, they're pumping out so much stuff so fast that you got to really stay on top of those updates. But the technical stuff, we were going to find and fish with them, but as far as fixing them and stuff, we got people that help us with that. So I wish I was better at it than I was, that's for sure. When you put down the hair jig, does water temperature dictate this? Yeah, definitely.
Pre-spawn, it's killer. Post-spawn, it's killer. Then about somewhere in July, early July, it kind of fades off. But I feel like the spy bait kind of does the same thing. It's just there's a point in time like early to mid-July, or maybe even earlier, where the hair jig kind of isn't really the deal anymore, and the spy bait kind of takes its place. But you fish them real similar.
And the hair jig's tough to fish out really deep. I mean, I'm still pretty confident with it in that 12 to 15 range, but when I start getting over that, and I love throwing it, it gets a little bit more difficult. Spy bait's definitely better. And I think when the bugs stop hatching, then they're not looking for that food source, you know, that when they're used to looking for the bugs that the big girls are looking up, you don't really catch that many small ones on it. It's like the small ones are so crawdad orientated, the big ones know they're smarter, they know that they can look up. And so I would say once those bugs stop hatching, and then if the water starts to darken up and stuff too, that starts to make for a little bit tougher hair jig. But from ice out until 4th of July or better, I'd be throwing a hair jig for sure. Will the females who are moving out deeper stay in the lower part of the water column, or do they suspend up higher? I know largemouth do a lot of suspending when they go back out. I don't know
when they come in, but that's more for like sunning purposes. I don't know. I typically catch them on the bottom. So
I'm almost always looking. Yeah, definitely. I'm gonna say bottom, but I've heard that fish on ledges and stuff go out and they suspend a little bit or whatever. But I wouldn't know because I'm not fishing for that fish that often. What is the best technique to use when hitting the points?
Like the outside points, a drop, just to get bit, a drop shot.
Carolina rig.
Yeah, Carolina rig or football jig's nice for kind of feeling around for where the rocks are, and you typically get bigger bites on them. But
and crankbait.
Yeah, or crankbait.
DT10, DT16.
But if you're just trying to see if there's a fish there or not, like drop shot, you'll get bit for sure.
Yeah, and idle around the point. Get to know what's the good stuff on the point, where the bait's at, all that kind of good stuff. Let's see. We got some more. Should we take one more?
Yeah.
Let's take one more. And any more questions, feel free to always hit us up. Facebook, Instagram, Seth Feider Fishing, Josh Douglas Fishing. We'll get to those questions as soon as we can. We appreciate them coming. What did I? Have we seen these ones?
Yeah.
Okay. What about when they spray the lakes after the spawn? What do you look for if they're killing the weeds?
Places they didn't kill the weeds.
Exactly. Definitely.
They're
places.
humans. They make mistakes. They don't spray everything. If they spray really bad, sometimes like the like offshore high spots, humps and stuff that they don't really get to. That's not around the docks. Or if you just, if you got to stretch a bank that's no docks on it, they usually don't spray that. So.
It's
Yeah.
usually a homeowner-based thing to try to keep that cleaned out for the
If you
homeowners
see them
and stuff
orange
like that.
signs, you definitely don't want to be there.
So you try to go find weeds and stuff like that in areas that the jet skiers and all that stuff aren't going through, that don't bother people, and it's tend to be at least the last ever hit. But we deal with it daily, every day, every lake we go to, we have to deal with either the lawnmower, the weed whacker, or the what's your play on the weed whacker actually? How does that play for you? You still fishing?
Cutting them?
Yeah.
You don't catch them.
Opens them up a little bit, lets all the sun in and all that.
I don't know.
How far down did they get on that thing?
5 feet.
5 feet?
Yeah.
All right, man.
Yeah.
I think that's it, guys. We appreciate everything. Again, we'll keep
Yeah.
these coming. We'll get on our game. We're at Seth's new house, and this is badass. We got a new place to do this at. So we appreciate y'all coming in. See ya.
See ya.